Welcome to this edition of the Mayor's Corner. I'm Jim Brown, Mayor of Cedar Falls, and with me today I have Director of Community Development, Stephanie Sheets. The goal today is just to overview a little bit and move forward and give some brief descriptions of Phase 1 of University Avenue. And Stephanie, as of today, Phase 1 is complete.
Yes.
The cones are gone, things are in place, some nice aesthetics have been put in place. Is there any more disruptions that the folks driving on that corridor might come across in the next month or two before this sort of construction season ends?
We will see the contractor out there doing a little bit of work on inside areas with a sidewalk that needs repair or adjusting an intersection, but University Avenue itself will remain as 2 lanes in both directions, and we're not planning to have mini cones out at all unless there's a spot fix that we need to do.
Of course. And then maybe, I'm assuming with the dry weather we've had, we'll probably need to do some watering up and through the corridor. I'm assuming they'll just try to access that area of University Avenue with their water trucks different ways.
Yes, we're watering the trees and the landscaping and want to make sure that makes it through any dry weather that we have. So they'll be parked out there.
Fantastic. And just to recap a little bit, first of all, the work on University Avenue in terms of a road needed to be done. And really you can almost keep it in perspective because on either side of the new Phase 1, you see the old road.
Yes.
And I know I rattled through with my old truck, and then all of a sudden it's more quiet because that road is in place. So through that process, you can see that as a road deteriorates, whether it's the road itself or the aesthetics around it or in the middle, that at least is gone. I think folks can appreciate the fact that in a season and a half, the city and all of its work did get finally completed.
Yes.
And I also heard quite a few from a number of folks that one element of this whole corridor is the fact that we've had quite a bit of business activity, economic development early on, as we talked and described with the grocery store, with the firehouse subs, and with the work planned and actually done with Slumberland. A few other businesses. Clearly, I believe they saw the benefit economically of, again, a new road, maybe and probably perhaps aside from the design. But that would seem to me another good indication of this corridor being complete is that other businesses actually took this time of being down to actually improve their own parking lots.
Yes.
A number of those companies did that up through that corridor?
Yes, we had a couple that did that, and we knew that there were others that were planning to as well. So we might still see some of that happening now that you have a nice, smooth, and new road, and the landscaping. People start to think, oh, my business needs to look nice too, and it starts to stick out if it's not improved. So
Sure.
We know of several that are planning to make improvements yet.
Excellent. And I know when we've gone up and down that corridor, door to door, to find out the needs of the businesses, to find out maybe some access points and all the signage that needed to go into that last construction season, again, it seems to me more folks, once they find how those access points can be attained, it's going to run a little bit smoother. And I think on the screen now, we're showing a little bit here, heading the direction towards Waterloo, if you will, heading east. Is that correct? Looks like it.
Yes.
And there again are the access points that folks are going to have to recognize. They're not going to be able to cross University Avenue directly, potentially. They're going to need to go almost the wrong direction for a roundabout to go back the other direction. Of course, all the while, most likely not stopping unless, of course, they're yielding for a car entering the roundabout.
Yes, I think that people will start to get accustomed to the changes in the access that have happened with this new project, with the new road that's in place. It gets tough when cones are out to understand how that will work. So I think now with the cones out of the way and 2 lanes in each direction, every intersection completed with those roundabouts, then we start to get used to what we call those 3/4 turn points that we have in a couple places along the corridor too.
Sure. And interestingly enough, on that last graphic towards the very end, that was the access that wasn't as easy to get into towards Texas Roadhouse, it looked like there, and towards the Mexican restaurant that we had there. Now that seems that that's pretty easy to get in and out of now.
Yeah, if you remember back to the Waterloo intersection before construction, it was basically a three-way with, I believe, a driveway on the south side, and now it's a full intersection going into the shopping area to the south there.
Yes. And also, I think, as we look at more footage, there's I'm not sure if the proper term is a bump out, but folks can clearly see the bus stops now, having an easy way to pull aside, to pick up folks and then be able to get back on the road.
Yeah, those bus stops were positioned in places where we think we would see a higher level of pedestrian activity because of the shopping that's close to that spot. So I believe that we have 3 of them along this stretch, and then we'll have a couple more going into phase 2 that will be installed there too. And so that convenience of now having trails and sidewalks right along the road all work together with that bus stop, and then being able to walk back into the businesses that are off either way of the road.
Absolutely. We've mentioned it a number of times as well, and it's helped me as I've navigated the corridor throughout the entire construction, is a big difference is the speed. So the benefit is that, of course, safety. The benefit is that at least in the structure, the design of the road, typically you're not stopping, which I know can lower the frustration for a lot of different individuals. Are you finding that also is coming full circle in terms of that safety factor, but then also allowing folks to find those access points? The key is speed.
You know, we even heard a fair amount of comments over the winter when we had some of the 2 roundabouts open that people felt that access was working and that the road was flowing, and people were enjoying that they weren't always having to stop at every intersection. So we started to hear that, and we expect that we'll probably see a lot more of that now that the road is fully functioning. But yes, that was the goal, to make it just an easier free flow, so there isn't a whole bunch of vehicles going at one time in any one direction. And by having that free flow, you're going to have a couple more gaps too. Now the speed limit overall has been reduced. I think it was 45 miles an hour before, and it's 35 miles an hour now. But just maintaining more consistent, I think what you were getting at is a consistent speed throughout. You might slow down just a little bit when you arrive at the roundabout to safely make it around that turn, but then you'll be back up to 35 miles an hour pretty quickly.
Sure. And I know we always need to, jokingly, we have said that we are Iowa nice when we're in those roundabouts, because some people want to stop in the middle of the roundabout, when in fact, when you're in that roundabout, you have the right of way.
Yes.
You're going until you signal to exit.
Yes.
So I think with those bumps and bruises, they're not so bad, because clearly it's not the worst thing in the world to stop for a few seconds as opposed to maybe 5 traffic lights in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
And the access points, this is interesting, and it's usually different for folks, especially through this corridor, but there's left and right turn lanes only as they move through going each direction. Can you explain that a little bit?
We have at certain points along the roadway areas where we have what we call kind of heavier turning movement. So that's when you put in a left turn lane or a right turn lane, like what we see on the screen here, that goes into the Kohl's shopping center, as well as then to the right there, the Clarion and the businesses along the frontage road there. So you can keep your main road, you can have fewer lanes there, as we have the 2 lanes, by adding a turn lane at the spots where you have more traffic wanting to make those movements.
And of course, the folks going the other direction, I've noticed there's signs that you can turn left, as we've just watched on the screen, going that direction, but come in the opposite direction, you're not to turn left. There's
Correct.
no real access there per
Correct.
se in terms of getting across
Yes.
that road.
Yeah. So we just need to watch, because it's different at each intersection, and people will just need to watch the signs that we have down and the markings on the road that help people know what they're allowed to do at which points.
Sure. Is there anything else you'd like to add in relation to Phase 1 being completed?
I think that really it's hard for people now to remember what it used to be like. As you were pointing out, we've got construction happening on in the Phase 2 area where people can remember, oh, this is what the pavement was like. And it's been a year and a half since we were on old pavement in Phase 1 area, so we're starting to forget what that condition was and that the road needed to be done. We also, the reminder of how we took this road from a highway to a local road that has the bus stops that you mentioned, the sidewalks, the trails, the landscaping, and really turning it into a local shopping district versus a highway going through town.
Absolutely. And I think for me personally, it's helped quite a bit to drive that corridor at the low peak times. So you feel more comfortable if no one's behind you or as you're moving through that corridor. I would just encourage folks to drive it at those low peak times. And so when there's the opportunity, when it is busier, at least folks know and they get the idea, you yield to those folks coming to your left and you be careful as you're going through the roundabout as you signal. But most definitely try it, drive it. As always as well, if there's ever any questions, please call City Hall or look through the city's website. I want to thank you for joining this edition of the Mayor's Corner for Phase 1 completion of University Avenue.